not pleased about the news that we heard yesterday. The brazen attack on our colleague Carlos Caloni, and the fact that the military, some of their men who were deployed to that Magdan demolition site, were acting very unprofessionally. The military has acknowledged the fact that, well, there were some missteps, except to say that they are indicating that there will be going forward investigations, and finally we're hoping that some remedial measures will be taken. But our focus first is about the safety of journalists, because if you're taking a look at the data, over 13 in just a space of 7 months, that's way more than what we experienced last year. So how do we nip this in the bud? How do we ensure that, of course, the trend, the very worrying one we're seeing now, is redressed? Let's bring in Sulemana Braimah. He is with the Media Foundation for West Africa. He's the executive director. And engineer Ken Ashigbey is also joining us this morning. He's with the Ghana Chamber of Mines, but obviously we know him to be a media person as well, and he's been championing this free course for the media all these years. And Winston, I must say that of course you've already explained your position on the matter, and why, of course, the military would have to come with further particulars or clarity on what precisely they intend to do with this issue.
Exactly, Blessed. But I think we have Sulemana on the line, so let's just get into the conversation with him.
And Sulemana Braimah, thank you for spending time with us this morning. Let me first of all find out from you, have you done some checks perhaps with the Ghana Armed Forces to find out if probably in the next few hours that military officer that we saw in the tape will be dealt with, or otherwise?
Well, thank you very much for having me. First of all, I think that what happened yesterday is completely untenable. It's a deeply embarrassing one to see men in uniform, our military men, behave the way they did yesterday. And I think that we are also witnessing a very, very worrying pattern of some of these actions in the name of national security operations. I think over time we are hearing national security matters on issues that are just completely embarrassing. And the earlier these things are stopped, the better. I haven't reached out to the military high command yet, but that is something that we'll do, except to say that I've had very respectable generals reach out to say that they themselves are quite disappointed with the statement that was issued yesterday by the military, because what happened didn't happen in a secret. We are not speculating. It is not an allegation that Carlos was assaulted. This happened in the open. Videos have been seen. There is no point in the military trying to pretend that, well, they don't know the officers or officer involved. And sometimes, yes, I should say, you don't want to take actions that will demoralize the military. But if you also allow indisciplined conduct to fester, you only basically would be promoting acts of indiscipline within the same military institution. And so we can only look forward to realistic action being taken rather than this peripheral statement that we are investigating. What exactly are they investigating? What has happened in Ablekuma? We saw the immediate action on the part of the police. The officer was interdicted. And that gives some sense of, hope that this is an institution that is really committed when it comes to discipline. So we look forward to exact measures that will be taken.
For you, and by extension the Media Foundation for West Africa, what will suffice in terms of punitive measures?
Well, I don't think that we are in a country where for some people assault is okay and for others it's a crime. What happened yesterday in terms of punching an innocent journalist who was basically trying to do his job, I don't think that we can say it's not criminal. Otherwise, are we saying that people can just go about punching others because they have power or because they feel they are more stronger than others? We will then be having a very chaotic society. And I don't think that our military are trained to abuse civilians, to attack people and punch them anyhow, unless we are being told that that is not part of the training. If that is not the case, and the military is trained to protect the territorial integrity of our country, then this certainly should be seen as a criminal act for which there should be persecution. And the least, at least, is for some signal to be sent to serve as deterrent to others that, look, you just don't go out there because you have been provided uniform by the state, because you are paid by the state, because you have been trained by the state, you have the liberty to abuse people. At least if what we saw with the police, even an interdiction, and a real interdiction, not interdiction by a statement and yet the officer is opposed, at least we'll clearly send a signal to others that, look, you don't go out there and misbehave because the state has provided you a uniform and trained you and given you a weapon, to misbehave. I think that is what we'll look forward to.
In fact, some are beginning to call for naming and shaming, and I'll get your thoughts on that, Sulemana Braimah. Let me also bring in Engineer Ken Ashigbey. The point about the figures, and it only occurred to me this morning that it is that high. 13 cases already in just the first half of this year. That's way more than what we witnessed the entire period for 2024, correct, Engineer?
Yes, definitely it is. And it really is very heart-wrenching to see these things happen. And it's just because this impunity goes unpunished. We have several examples of these things that happen. And then the last one that happened just before this, what happened at Ablekuma North? What has happened to that policeman? We are told of interdiction, and it's all clouded in secrecy, and nothing happens. That there's the situation of even your colleague who was beaten up by the police at the police headquarters. What happened to that? The police told us that there's no CCTV footage of that. So it is important that in this one and in the rest of them, we demand transparency from the authorities in terms of the way the punishments are done. And so the military, yes, it's good that the statement has been issued, but what happens after today, we need to be kept, in the know. And we should get to the point where, just as we did in other cases, especially multimedia, where you took civil action, some action has to be taken. There are some of the cases currently, like Latif's case, there is one of the Pius's case who was also beating up during one of these elections. We need to be taking these cases. If it won't be handled in Ghana, we should be going to the ECOWAS Human Rights Court.
I was going to bring that up.
And make sure that
I was going to bring that up, and just sadly to say that very often when these cases come up and we take that legal approach, it takes years. But it's bringing up the age-old conversation around reform around the National Media Commission. It never goes away. Why is that reform not happening?
Well, you see that the challenge we have with the issues around most of the people who perpetuate this thing are the people in authority. And if the reforms have to happen, yes, for the NMC also needs to play a big role. And I have had my issues with the NMC in terms of the way they deal with attack on journalists. I don't think that they really do what it is that they are beginning to do. At least now we are seeing the GJ do a bit more in terms of all of that. But we need to find a way of pushing, the envelope so far as these things are concerned. This GJ, this NMC, they were the people who, when I was a graphic, and one of my journalists decided that after he's been beaten and we're taking the case to court, decided to opt out. And we decided to punish him. They came after me, but they wouldn't focus on the things that they would do to protect the journalists. If we had taken a decision when Asamoah and his brother dastardly beat one of the journalists in Kumasi and had really prosecuted that, I'm pretty sure Ahmed Swale would not have died. When we have the situation where a member of parliament threatens to, beat the hell out of a journalist, what happens to that person? Then the person has the effrontery of now telling us that he wants to run as presidential candidate. Our adherence to some of these things are not We don't push it that much, and it's really, really, really disheartening to find out that we sit in this country and military people, police people, who themselves, when the systems are against them, is the journalists they will run to. You think that all the arms of government, we really need to curb this thing in the bud, because the tendencies are continuing because of the fact that when things happen, these people just get away.
Yeah. Great interventions there. But, Sulemana, the point about policy that the government brought out regarding the deployment of military is fresh on our minds. We all thought that directive would have been far-reaching. Government on one hand says, well, we won't give you military detachment as part of your personal security. Many say that should have been an extended form where in some of these cases where demolition is being done, you wouldn't find the military being deployed as part of the task force. How come that we're having this as part of the Magdan case?
Well, I think it's all part of the bigger issue that I raised in terms of how, and particularly in the last few months under this government, this whole animal called national security, that is almost involved in everything that we hear about, whether it is the mining. The other day there were allegations that the national security officers have stormed, forestry commission offices in some mining districts in Ashanti region. We are looking into incidents of legitimate mine concessions that have been taken over by party people, sometimes in the cahoots of NDC MPs in certain areas, and we are being told that the original miners were driven away by operatives of national security, and usually these people come in military uniforms. So are we talking about the personnel of the Ghana Armed Forces who have been deployed to be part of national security now being used for these things? A demolition exercise. As far as I know, you would see the police being the ones leading it, maybe with the support of the military, just in case, because our law enforcement agency, primarily internally, is the police. Are we saying that the police are unable to now supervise these exercises? If not, why is it the military? Why are we militarizing everything when we are told that, in the past regime, the way military was being deployed was, over and above what was being expected, and sometimes that caused some of the problems that we had, and all of that. I said, as I posted yesterday, that I hope this national security establishment that we are having now will not wipe away the goodwill that the government is currently enjoying, because it is just becoming one too many.
Let's talk about naming and shaming. How crucial would that be in the fight?
I wouldn't discount it, but I don't think that would do much. The officer involved yesterday, if you name him, what will happen? It's just about the people in position of responsibility taking action to demonstrate to the Ghanaian people that our officers are trained not to be indisciplined. Our officers are trained to be enforcers of the law and not abusers of the law. I don't think that anybody should have the liberty to take the laws of Ghana into their own hands simply because they are a police officer or a military officer or a fire service officer or whatever it is. Until that conviction is given to Ghanaians through the action of leadership, I think that we'll get to a point where, people will feel, well, if we find a military person somewhere and we feel the person is doing something that is wrong, we can also act against the person. I often say that the respect we accord our security personnel, and while we all condemn incidents of attacks on security personnel, is not because they are special. It is because they are trained to protect us. But if now they are using that training to abuse innocent people, and particularly people who are acting in the service and in the interest of the public, such as journalists, then what kind of country are we building? I believe and hope that the government will take swift, quick, and realistic actions to restore, the kind of confidence that people would want to have in a new government in terms of protecting civil liberties, protecting the rights of journalists, and protecting media freedoms. I think the president has said it in that statement in Ethiopia. And of course, we don't want to see a situation where it will be good talk, as we witnessed, let's say, under Akufo-Addo, all the right things are said and the wrong things are done. We don't want to see a repeat of a situation where all the right things are said and the wrong things are done.
Ken, the aspect about the Ghana Journalists Association, obviously the leadership will be addressing the press later today, but it doesn't absolve them from any kind of responsibility or what we should be holding them to account on. How can the GJA better enforce, our presence, the fact that we are in the realm of the fourth estate, and that ought to be respected?
Well, thank you. So again, let me just a little bit on the naming and shame. And I agree completely with Sule that, when is it that any of the other realms of the state, if somebody should attack the president now, or any of the ministers now, or anybody attacks a member of parliament or attacks the judiciary, they will be running out. The parliament has their contempt thing that they even do when you just speak against them. And then you also have the situation where you have in the judiciary has their, parliament has them. But when it comes to journalists, we think that all we need to do is to issue a statement. It's not adequate. So for GJA, I think that, as I said, there's been a remarkable improvement in terms of speaking out against this thing. What we now need to be doing is to move a step beyond that. We now need to start taking cases to court. We need to emulate the example of multimedia. I agree with you that it takes a while for some of these cases when it goes to court. But what else can we do? We cannot take cardinals again after these people. But beyond doing this thing locally, I know Sule, his team, they have done the situation where they took Gambia to the ECOWAS court. So I think we should also be exploring that now and making sure that we take these cases to court, because the state is complicit in it when the state does not deal with the people who perpetuate these violence against us. That's several of them that are there. But again, another thing is that we as middle class as well, what is it that we as middle class we're doing? Our brands, are all put on these media houses to be able to sell our products. So as businesses as well, we should be hearing our voices when these things happen. We should not be quiet. And the Ghanaians should also realize the fact that, the freedoms that these journalists push for us, it's our freedoms. Let the journalists stop talking about these things, and things will happen to you. What happens? We are in this country when even there's a flood happening, they won't call the security force. The first people they will call is the media. Individuals, when their rights are being threatened, it's the media they will call. So I think that for all of us, we need to start realizing the fact that this attack on journalists, this attack on media, it's our own freedom of speech that is being attacked. And so whether those who are in power today, you are in power today, but you will not be in power forever. Right. And you might leave, and these things will be perpetuated against you. And those dastardly people who themselves are attacking, they should realize the fact that the time will come when they also need the media. So it is important that we start seeing action. Deliberate action by everybody. And I will call His Excellency the President. He's one of the people who we know is from our fraternity. And so in his past, regime, the protection of journalists were far better than this in terms of what we are beginning to see this time. He needs to rein it in immediately, and I believe he has the power to be able to do that.
Okay.
The minister in charge of public communication also owes us a responsibility. We need to start seeing his tacit action against these things that are happening, and so that we can get something going and be able to stop. We have had Ahmed Swale happen already on our hands. If we leave this thing like this, we might have multiple of them also happening.
8:30 here on the Super Morning Show, and you're just hearing from Engineer Ken Ashigbey and also Sulemana Braimah, all appalled by this continuous attack on the media. 13 cases in just the first half of this year, raising a number of concerns already. But we cannot go without talking about the by-election which is in the offing. The Akwitia by-election is coming up, and if the last election is anything to go by, the rerun of the 19 polling stations in the Ablekuma North constituency is anything to go by, that is also giving us a sense of worry, because at least two of our colleagues were attacked as well. So, Suleiman, as we wrap up, let me take your thought and that of Ken on what we need to do to provide a coordinated security for media who will be covering that election.
Well, I think let me start with the point you made about the GJ, and to add to what Ken said, that the current leadership, which has been in power for the last 3 years, I mean, the same president and I think the executives, all of them were part of the previous executives. I think we need to appreciate and commend the efforts they've made in terms of really uplifting the role of the GJA in promoting media freedom and freedom of expression in this country. And I think we need to recognize that and commend them. The GJA is not a police. It doesn't have the prosecutorial powers. It can basically raise concerns about what is happening, and I think that they've been doing that quite effectively. On Akwitia and other things, I think it still comes back to the point we make about impunity. If acts of violence that were perpetrated against journalists in the past are not addressed and perpetrators not punished, it only incentivizes others to want to do the same. So between now and when Akwitia happens, we want to see some direct action on the part of leadership of our country to send a strong signal to people that, look, the way to develop this country is not to manifest how partisan you can be or how brutal you can be. The way to develop this country is to showcase how law-abiding you are and in enforcing your rights. And therefore, going into Akwitia, it is not about who is stronger, who has the biggest, the fattest and strongest people. It is about who ensures that the laws are enforced. I believe that the police will be there. If need be, the military will be there. But their presence there should be about enforcing the law and not abusing the law.
Right.
Otherwise, I think that people will begin to take the law into their own hands. If these people who are trained, paid, uniformed, and empowered to protect the laws and enforce the laws become the law abusers.
Ken, let me give you the final word on this. Engineer Ken Ashigbey, I believe you can still hear me. And kindly, yes, okay, right, that's good.
Hello, I missed that. Oh, bless him.
I was just giving you the last take on this.
Well, again, so I think that we really, all as people, as citizens, need to realize that where this is going is not the best for all of us. We need to all state that this thing should not continue, and we should be demanding. That all of the cases that we currently have, we should be able to get answers for them. So what I would also urge all of us journalists to do is that we should not stop reporting this. This issue should not be discussed just because it's multimedia that is involved. We should be following all of these cases, and maybe if the time has come for us to have on a monthly basis where we go back and look at all the cases of journalists that have been beaten and find out where we are with that. We need to call all the duty bearers. So the IGP, so the situation, for example, the military, the CDS, we should be speaking to the CDS, speaking to the ministry, going as far up as to the president. We should be demanding, to see the president and ask for actions on this. Not only what has happened under his tenure, but even the ones that have happened previously to that. Latif is still suffering it. Pius, has had multiple surgeries. He currently needs money to go back to either India or South Africa for a final surgery, or because he went covering an election and somebody who claims to be national security shot him. And this thing about national security, we need to rein it in. We saw what has happened in the Forestry Commission thing, where people purported to be national security did this thing. And so we need to rein this national security thing that is happening in. they cannot be used to be terrorizing the people that they're supposed to be providing security for. So we urge the National Security Coordinator to deal with this, and not only deal with it, but let us know what is being done to these people. Thank you.
Grateful, Engineer Ken Ashigbey, for giving us your thoughts on this. Also to Sulemana Braimah, Executive Director, Media Foundation for West Africa. And we want to commend you as well for holding that fort for us and always championing the rights of the Fourth Estate here at the Multimedia Group. Obviously, we say that you ought to defend media freedom, and that's why we've been running that campaign for quite some time now. Winston, I believe that you've not been happy ever since.
No, but you see, because we pretend a lot in this country, and I always have my concerns that people, and I say this every time you get calls, oh, haven't you heard of this? Haven't you expect me to talk on for you? But if I say something that you do not like, then you want to attack. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
We cannot, in one instance, be urging the media to talk for us, and when they talk. When they say something we do not like, and in this case, what did Carlos do? All he did was to help us appreciate what was going on.
Yeah, right.
If you have, a court document that says go and demolish, go and possess a land, why? If the journalist comes there, what's your big deal?